Very good. So, welcome to the 36th International Conference on Software Maintenance and Evolution. It's the first virtual conference on software maintenance. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Can somebody just confirm that you can hear me and see my screen? Very good. So that confirms that we're live on YouTube now as well. On YouTube. Good. So my name is Christoph. I'm at the University of Adelaide, and together with Hongyu Zhang from the University of Newcastle, I'm one of the general co-chairs for ICSME 2020, and our program co-chairs this year are Kelly Blinko from the University of Auckland and Sancheng Xing from Australian National University in Canberra. And for the last 2 years or so, we've been working on putting together, hopefully, what you will think of as a really exciting program for ICSME 2020. Before we go into detail on the different things we have in the program, I just want to introduce you to the rest of our team and also say thank you to everybody in the team. So as you know, conferences like this live from ideas, right? We need lots of ideas, and this year, following ICSME last year actually, we have 2 tracks for new ideas, one called New Ideas, one Late Breaking Ideas. The difference is the paper length. And a big thank you to our chairs for these tracks, Xin Jia, Nicole Nubiali, Jifeng Xuan, and Mauricio Anishi. Tool demos. We're doing something new with tool demos this year. We actually have a Best Tool Demo Award. Please watch out for notifications on Slack about this. And thank you to Mario and Hailong for chairing this track. Our industry track this year is chaired by Jiang Guang and Andy. These papers you will see during the program as well. The journal first track is the one with the highest acceptance rate this year. All papers were accepted, so if you really want to come to ICSME, the journal first track seems to be the way to go. The only kicker is you need a journal paper first. Thank you to David Lowe and Dave Shepard for making sure that all the submissions were eligible. Some of you will have attended the doctoral symposium a couple hours ago while I was sleeping. Thank you to Marco Scherosa and Bonita Sharif for chairing this one. We've only received positive feedback so far, so thank you very much. This is the first ICSME that has a ROSE festival. ROSE is short for Recognizing and Rewarding Open Science and Software Engineering. I hope I got that right. And this year's ROSE Festival is chaired by Kla and by Jens. And actually, the ROSE Festival is happening today. It will be the first session in the Europe time band in about 8 hours from now. The track with the lowest acceptance rate is the Most Influential Paper Award. We only picked one paper from ICSME 2010. And actually, we're very thankful that the PC chairs of ICSM 2010, Andy Marcus and Michaela Lanza, chaired this selection, and Andy will also be chairing the Most Influential Paper presentation, which will happen in the first session on Friday, which is about 48 hours from now. So that's the Most Influential Paper Award. We're the first ICSME to have a registered reports track, and we're following MSR this year in that. Actually, we even managed to convince one of the chairs from MSR to chair the track for us as well. So we had the maximum learning experience. Thank you, Neil Ernst, for that. And thank you, Tim Menzies, for joining him. As you can imagine, local arrangements ended up looking quite different compared to what we had originally anticipated. So thank you, Sebastian Baltes, for dealing with local arrangements and registration and dealing with all the uncertainty around this. Speaking of arrangements, I also want to do a shout out to the IEEE team we've been working with. In particular, our conference planner, Kathy Park, who's been really good at making sure that we got all the money back from all the venues that we had already paid when we were still hoping that this would be a physical conference. So thank you to the IEEE team and Kathy in particular for this. Our publicity chairs, hopefully you've seen some of their messages on WeChat, Twitter, Facebook, and so on, Dan and Laura this year. And we're also the first ICSME that has an explicitly named team in charge of diversity and inclusion. And we'll actually have a birds of a feather session on what diversity and inclusion can look like in virtual and also in hybrid conferences going forward. That will happen on Friday in the Europe time band. Thank you, Raula and Brittany, for chairing this. Our finance chair, a really big thank you to him because he stepped up last minute after our original finance chair resigned, not because of our bad financial situation, but because of other duties. So thank you, Gregorio, for this. Also for future conferences, I can highly recommend to have the finance chair also be the steering committee chair. This way you avoid a lot of conflicts with the steering committee. Thank you to our proceedings chair, Matthias Galster, and our web chair, Shu Wang, for making things work behind the scenes. And perhaps one of the biggest thank yous goes to Daniel Alencar da Costa, who originally signed up to be student volunteer chair. And then when we realized we needed a virtualization chair, then he took up this role as well. And the reason that we can meet on Zoom today and that we have Slack channels and all of that, that's all because of him. So thank you, Danielle, for that. And I also want to thank all of you. Thank you for attending a conference in these difficult times. We realize that many of you have really busy and unpredictable and unusual schedules these days. So thank you very much for attending ICSME 2020. We're really hoping that this will be a fun and exciting event for everyone. The code of conduct, I'm not going to read out all of this. It's also on our website, but I just want to highlight that as all conferences in our field, of course, we have no tolerance for discrimination, harassment, bullying in any form. If you encounter any of this, let anybody in the organizing team know as soon as possible. All right, before I hand over to my co-chair, I want to tell you a little bit more about Adelaide, or Australia in general. So Australia wasn't always full of people like me. Traditionally, it was owned by Aboriginal people who are the traditional landowners of Australia. And it's a good tradition to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we operate as part of conferences like this. And one of our student volunteers, thank you, Brittany, for doing this, recorded a welcome message from one of the elders of the Ghana community, which are the traditional owners of the land in Adelaide and around Adelaide. So I'm just going to play you this welcome message from one of the community elders of the Aboriginal community here around Adelaide.
Cool, it's recording.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to give the welcome to the conference today, and I do so on behalf of the Ghana elders. And it's always been part of our culture, Ghana culture, to give welcomes to country. Our people did this for thousands of years, and we held conferences in our country as well. We've got a word called Bambaya, which means to hold a conference. And our people believed in education and sharing of information, because we believed no group held the monopoly on knowledge. So we believed in sharing information to help each other and gain better, from the results of sharing information and knowledge sharing. So part of our culture is also as well is to continue the practice of welcoming, because it's important that we do that, especially online. Even though you're not here in person, we believe it's still important to do so, to welcome people to our country as the host city of the conference. So I'll get on with the welcome first, and then I'll talk a little bit afterwards about our culture. Machwanga Ghana Mena, Naiwangani, Mani Nabudni, Ghana Yatana, Alberca Mankalankla, Tandanya Minako, Nachi Yungandaya, Nachi Yakandaya, Paddy Adli Wadu. So what I said was, on behalf of the Ghana people, I welcome you to Ghana country. I do this ambassador of the Adelaide Plains people. My brothers, my sisters, let's walk together in harmony. Natalia, thank you. So I was asked to just tell us a little bit about Ghana people. We're the traditional owners of the Adelaide Plains area. And so our name for Adelaide region is actually Tandanya, which means it's red kangaroo country. Male red kangaroo dreaming country. And so this country has always had a spiritual connection for people to come and meet from different worlds and wider people from different groups as I said before, to come and share the knowledge. And also, it's, our language is so important to the country because our people believed if you know our language, you'll know our country better. So that's why it's important that we continue our language. And we actually have just sort of like started, well, we hadn't started, it's been a process of reclaiming our language, and it started in the late 1980s when it was said that our language was nearly extinct, but we believed it was just asleep and we just needed to reawaken it. So that's what we've done since then. And so we're fortunate enough that 2 German missionaries, Tyson and Sherman, come to our country in the late 1839 to 1845, and they taught our language in language. They learned our language and taught our children in language for 6 years. So, and they documented our language. So we was fortunate enough that they recorded some 3,000 words, which was a good basis for us to start, reclaiming our language and getting our young people to learn it again. But also, we also believe the language was in the land and it just needed to come out again. And so, as I said, reawaken it, and that's what's happened. So today we've got some like 10 fluent speakers, young people, but we need at least 20 to train up, and we're in the process of having courses to train at least 30 Ghana teachers, so that one day we can reach our goal of the vision of being able to teach our language to, available in every school on the Adelaide Plains. So that's a bit about our culture, but culture is important to keep alive and practice. So that's why it's important to keep our welcomes going, because it's part of our cultural practice. And if you don't practice your culture, it dies. So that's why we keep going with the welcomes. So I hope you've learned a little bit from me today, and I hope that you enjoy your conference. Thank you.
Cool.
Aaron?
All right, and with that, I'll pass it on to my co-chair, Hongyu.
Thanks, Christopher. My name is Hongyu. I'm the co-chair of this conference. So welcome all of you to come to this conference. So we can see that we have 282 registered participants from 31 countries. So the top 3 countries are US, Canada, and China. I think US has about 55 registrations, then followed by Canada, which has about 46 registrations, and China has about 26 registrations. Also, Australia has about 16 registrations, and New Zealand has 10 registrations. We also have people from other countries, for example, Thailand, Mexico, and Iceland. Yeah, so if you are from Iceland, if this is a face-to-face meeting, then you really traveled a lot to attend this conference. So welcome all of you. Okay, so next slide. Okay, I guess you have already received an email sent by IEEE. In that email, there is a link to a web page where you can find a lot of information such as program schedule, Zoom sessions, the Zoom meeting IDs and passwords, and also Slack channels, the link to the proceedings and the password, the link to the YouTube channel, and the presenter's instructions. If you are a session chair or a student volunteer, then you can also get help from the instructions. So please make sure that you spend some time on reading this web page. Okay, so next slide. Okay, for this conference, we have 107 technical presentations over 18 sessions. And we will have 3 keynotes, 7 Ask Me Anything sessions, 8 social events, 8 meet the author rooms. So basically after each technical session, we will have these meet the author rooms. So you can discuss more questions with the authors. You can meet the authors and further clarify your questions. And we will also have a MIP presentation on the third day of the conference. So Miran King will present her paper in ICSM 2010. So this is the 10-year most influential paper. And we also had this doctoral symposium earlier this morning in Sydney time. Also, we have this Rose Festival. Basically, this is for the reusable and reproducible artifacts. So in this conference, we are going to have 5 artifacts talks. Finally, we will have this award ceremony on the third day. Okay, next slide. Okay, so you can see that this is our overall program schedule. We will have 3 days, 3 full days. You can see that our schedule is quite busy. So you can see that on the very first row, there are 3 days: UTC September 30, UTC October 1st, UTC October 2. So basically, these dates are the UTC dates. Yeah, they are for reference only. So you can always change the time zone to your local time zone. So the dates could be different from your local dates. For example, now it is morning, September 30 in Sydney. It could be night on September 29 in New York, right? So the dates could be different. You may notice there is a small link called change on the top of the page. So you can always change it to your local time zone to find the latest, to find the time information that matches your own time. And also you may notice the first column, which is about the actual time. Yeah, the actual time. So basically we divide the time into 3 sections: the Asia time, Europe, Africa time, and Americans time, because people are from different parts of the world. So we divide these time slots into 3 sections to ease people from different countries. Then again, for the time that is shown in the first column, this is the UTC time. So please change it to your local time so that you know when the conference will start in your local time. And if the time is before the UTC date, then you can see a message previous day shown. If it in the next day of the UTC date, then you can see a message next day. Yeah, so please make sure that you could understand this program schedule. Okay, so and also there is a link, Zoom room link in this schedule. So if you click on this link, you will see the Zoom ID. So you can get the password from the web page I just mentioned in order to enter the room. So we have 2 rooms, room 1 and room 2, room 1 and room 2. So basically the meeting ID are different for different rooms and different for different time bands. So make sure that you enter the correct room. The passwords are the same for all the rooms. You can always click on the link on the web page so that you don't have to remember all the meeting IDs. You can simply click on the link on the web page in the conference website. Okay, so you can see that on these 3 days, we have very busy schedule. We have keynote session, ask me anything session, and meet the authors sessions. So please do attend these sessions. Okay, so next page. Yeah, we have 3 keynotes in this conference. The first keynote will be given by Ahmed Hassan immediately after this opening session. So Ahmed will talk about empirical evaluation in software engineering. And tomorrow in the Europe time band, Dongmei Zhang from Microsoft Research will talk about software analytics and cloud intelligence. And on the third day of the conference, Tim Mansis from NCSU will talk about the future of software engineering. I think this will be a very interesting keynote as well. So yeah, thanks to all the keynote speakers. Okay, so we will have 7 ask me anything events. So Olive Kopp from JabRef will talk about his experience as an open source developer. And Christina from Oracle Australia will talk about her experience in industry. And Gemma will talk about her PhD journey. And right now, Gemma is a postdoc, so she will talk about her journey from PhD to postdoc. Chun Yang will talk about his story as a new faculty member in Monash University. And we also invited Jill Murphy as a senior academic. So she will talk about the overlap between academia and industry. And we will also have 2 distinguished reviewers, Peter and Mike. They will talk about how to write good reviews. Finally, we will have an open steering committee session. So in all these ask me anything sessions, please ask any questions that you have to them. So all are welcome to join these sessions. Okay, next slide. We will have many social events. So this conference is not a face-to-face conference, so we could not provide real coffee and a real reception. However, you can always bring your own drink, your coffee and tea, and to join us on Zoom. You can switch on your video and then that's a chat over the Zoom. Also, we provide a Slack channels, so you can always talk to each other through Slack. So be sure to bring your coffee and that's chat. We will also have a diversity and inclusion session. So in this session, you could talk about the diversity issues, especially in the context of online conference. And we will also have a LGBT session for the LGBTIQ members of our community. Finally, we will have a special session for the student volunteers. They spend a lot of time and effort on this conference. So we would like to have a special session for them to thank them for their hard work. So we will invite some senior academics to come and join us to share their stories with the student volunteers. Okay, so next slide. We also had 3 co-located events, SCAM and VSoft. These 2 conferences were held earlier this week, and we also had this second software documentation generation challenge, which was also co-located with ICSME 2020. So this conference all went very well. So all together, ICSME, SCAM, VSoft, and the document generation challenge, all together we have about 336 registered participants. So I think this is a good number. So many people from many countries actually joined us in this event. Okay, with that, I will pass the time to our program co-chair, Kelly. So Kelly will talk about the technical program.
Hello, thanks all for joining us. I'm just going to introduce a bit about the technical program. So we have 107 total paper presentations in a fully blended program. So we have 18 total sessions, and each session has typically 4 long papers and 2 short papers across any of the tracks. So we have 58 total research track papers, 7 from the industry track, 12 new ideas, 7 tool demonstrations, 4 registered reports, 9 journal first papers, and 10 late breaking ideas tracks. So the sessions have been organized and together based on topic rather than based on the track that the papers originated from. Next slide. So before I talk to you about the process of how we selected those papers, I'd like to give a massive thank you to everybody that served on the program committee. So we had 185 total program committee members across all of our tracks, and 97 of them were on the main research track. So these pictures are people that served on the research track program committee, and some of them actually served on more than one committee, so they also helped on some of the other tracks as well. So thank you to all of the people that served on, all 185 people that served across all of our tracks. So they put in all of the hard work in order for us to be able to select the papers for this program. Next slide. So for the research track, I'll just give you some brief details about the process of how the papers were selected. So we had a record number of submissions this year. We had 254 abstract submissions, which was substantially more than past years. We're not sure if that was because of the timing. So the submission deadline was at a slightly different time this year due to the COVID-19. We've delayed the submission deadline. So we went out and elicited some more PC members while the PC was bidding on papers. So the PC chose papers that they would like to review and they were qualified to review in the bidding process. And we went out and got some more PC members during that time as well, so that the PC wouldn't be too burdened by reviewing too many papers that they had more than they had signed up for, since we got so many more than anticipated. So each PC member reviewed somewhere between 6 and 7 papers. Ultimately, 207 papers were submitted. And over the 4 days after that, Zhen Chang and I reviewed every paper. We read the abstracts and scanned through the whole paper looking for, to make sure that the papers were in scope of the conference, and also checking for double-blind violations. Ultimately, 201 of those submissions were sent for review. Each of the papers received 3 reviews from members of our program committee and were extensively discussed as well. So after the 3 reviews came in, the reviewers tried to reach a consensus, and we strongly encouraged reviewers to look for reasons to accept papers rather than to reject papers. So we wanted to find reasons to have nice contributions presented at this version of ICSME. So in the end, we had 58 papers accepted in the research track. 50 were accepted initially and 8 conditionally accepted, which were then checked again by somebody that originally reviewed the paper. And all of them ultimately were accepted into the conference program. So 58 papers altogether from the research track. Next slide. And now I'll pass it over to Zhen Chang to give a bit of detail on the topics and where those papers came from.
Unmute myself. Hello, everyone. This is Zhen Chang from the Canberra, Australia. If you look at my background, actually, it's not virtual. I'm in the real world. Before I talk about I know we are a bit late, but before I talk about the conference, let me show you a little bit a view of the Australia to compensate the PT you cannot really be here. This is the city of Canberra, where I work and live, and it's have a very beautiful lake in the center. And it's designed by this Griffin, who designed the initial landscape of the city. And the right hand side, you have this all the buildings at the ANU campus, and it's just the next to the Black Mountain. I'm actually now at the top of the Mount Ansley. It's a kind of landmark to have a very good bird view of the city, and also it's a very popular exercise spot. So you may hear some of the voice in the background. I hope that's fine. And well, you know, it's a bit unfortunate you cannot be here, and but you know, it's also the opportunity to do something different. I don't think any of the co-chairs can actually host the opening of the ICSME in the real world like this, which I really enjoy. Have a very nice bird view of the city meanwhile opening the ICSME. Okay. Anyway, let me get back to the normal business. So as you can see here, we have a very good submissions for all the topic in ICSME. We have a very high submission. The top two is empirical study and mining software repository. In a moment, we will have the creator of this mining software repository, the community, Ahmed Hassan, which give us the first keynote. Also, we have a very good a wide range of submissions, good submissions for a wide range of topics. I especially want to highlight we have very good size of submissions for the human aspect and the productivity of software engineers. And we actually organized the 3 sessions in the program about the social and human aspect, which I believe is a very important perspective to study the software engineering in addition to the technical perspectives. Okay, about the submission, the acceptance rate, it's roughly the same across different topic. And the hardest one I would say, if you look at, is the number 5 is the source code analysis and manipulation, which has the lowest acceptance rate in a sense. So that means maybe this is very competitive on this topic. If you are the PhD working on this topic, you may have to work very hard, and otherwise you may not. Your paper may be very hard to get accepted at ICSME. Okay, let's move on to the next slides. So we have submissions from 42 countries. Thank you all again for all the submissions, all the authors. And again, you know, we see this phenomena in all the software engineering conference, many other conference, even beyond the academic work. The top 2 is usually the China and US, and we have the Canada at the 3rd position, Brazil and Germany at the 4th and the 5th position. Australia is at the 5th position. But I truly believe if Hongyu, me, and Christophe are allowed to submit, we could be very competitive in the one of the position in top 5. But we are very happy to organize the conference to serve the community rather than submitting a paper. Okay, next slide. There's some interesting findings for the acceptance rate. We have 2 countries, regions, which stands out, which is Hungary and Hong Kong, which means the paper submitted from these 2, from the Hungary and Hong Kong, all got accepted finally. And we also have a few other places like Brazil, Singapore, Sweden have a relatively higher acceptance rate. And which means, to me, it indicates if you want to got your ICSME paper submitted, move to this place and find a faculty position in this place, then you'll get lucky and get the paper always accepted at ICSME. Okay, you hear some voice in the background. Let me find a better place. Okay, on behalf of all the Christophe, Hongyu, Kelly, and myself, and the organization committee, and the PC members, and all the authors, presenters, speakers, and the session chairs, thank you all for the contributions. We made this happen. We actually leave a good footprint in the history. So this is the first virtual ICSME conference. We hope everyone enjoyed this conference. And if you have anything difficulties and